Greetings, YouTube. In physics, there's a joke about spherical cows. Now, for those that are not familiar with it, essentially it's the concept that cows are very physically complex devices, objects, if you want to figure out a formula concerning a cow. It's got lots of bumps and protrusions, and it's just a very odd shape to figure out a physical formula for. So if you'd like to do a calculation with a cow, what you do is you take its mass and you imagine the cow is a sphere. Now it's much simpler. A sphere is easy to figure things out for. Of course, you have now abstracted a real-world thing to the point where it is absurd and bears no resemblance to reality. So spherical cows is a physics joke, and unfortunately, it represents a certain frame of mind that you can't actually find in certain people doing research and things. They want things to be simple. That way they're easier to understand. They can break it down, make it more relatable and things like that. But in the process, they lose touch with reality. So why do I bring this up at a book review? Getting to Yes. By Roger Fisher and William Ury, a revised edition by Bruce Patton. Now, I didn't see the pictures of Roger Fisher or Bruce Patton, but I did see a picture of William William Ury, and he has a particularly punchable face. The first 41 pages of this book had a hell of a lot of spherical cows. I say 41 for a reason. I'll get there. The basic idea is that, in the author's mind, that we approach negotiations in a manner that is less than optimal for achieving the goal of a negotiation. Now, if you are charitable, the point of a negotiation is to achieve an agreed-upon end. And that's a rather Pollyanna way of looking at it. Because, say, someone that wants a raise and someone that doesn't want to give a raise have two very different goals in mind. And the idea that those two peoples, or groups of people and a person, are going to cooperate on any realistic level and achieve a mutual goal beggars belief, in my opinion. If you had not told me who wrote this book, within the first 4 paragraphs, I would have told you it was men. Yeah. Because this thing just reeks of people that are not ever having to worry about society judging them on any way. And if everyone in the world was a straight, cis, white dude, maybe this book would be appropriate. Maybe if everyone came from exactly the same socioeconomic background. Maybe if everyone had the exact same class, this might be an applicable book. But that is talking about comparing spherical cow to spherical cow, which don't exist for a reason. So the tone initially was this. They were writing about these topics, but everything was at this very cool distance. There was this just like everything is. We're talking about subjects. We're not naming names. We're not giving any details. But we're all going to talk about everything at arm's length, where people don't live. But I tried to forge ahead. My friend Jan gave this book to me because he wanted me to read it. And I tried for 41 pages. But on page 40, the authors quoted someone. Now, they had an option to quote almost anyone in history that would be supporting that particular moment in the book. I mean, they had all of history to do it. From the earliest records from, like, Babylonians and Greeks all the way up through the present. Who did they choose? To quote, who did they decide to point the spotlight at as having said something particularly wise and cogent? They chose President Woodrow Wilson, who is arguably the second most racist president in our history, right behind 45. And then the very next passage on the next page, 41, they said, rather than say, you're a racist because someone is a racist, they said, why don't you frame it as, well, we feel discriminated against because preserving white fragility is the most fucking important thing in the universe. Making sure that you don't make a racist feel uncomfortable is the most important thing you can do. Which is when I noped out of this book. Because telling people who have been discriminated against, who have been oppressed, that they shouldn't offend the person doing the racism and discrimination, the oppression, is absolutely absurd. It's offensive. It's vile. It's a tone argument. It's telling other people how they should be handling their rage. I mean, I'm going to give you an example of two people going for a promotion at a company. Each is trying to negotiate their position to get that raise, that promotion. Okay? The first person is a straight white dude. All right? He came from a privileged family. He went to an Ivy League college. He wasn't a particularly good student, but he went to an Ivy League college. He's a member of the same country club as two of the board members. A board made of 7 people, all white, 1 woman, all the rest guys. He comes from the same socioeconomic background. One of the board members knows his father. He's not a particularly stellar employee. He's, in fact, mostly spent his career not stepping on his own dick. Now you have the other candidate. A black woman. Comes from a middle class background. Her father's an academic. Her mother's a midwife. She went to a public school. Top 10 of her class. Excellent student. Did incredibly well. Has done very well at the company. It has, in fact, made 2 of the board members look good. Whereas the white guy is a Republican along with the entire board of directors, the black woman is a Democrat and a supporter of Black Lives Matter and the Me Too movement. Now, between these 2 candidates, which one do you think the board is going to pick? The person that looks just like them with the same background they had? The same path that they walked to get them on that board of directors? Or a person they consider to be a social problem, but is very useful in her position because she makes them look good. And she doesn't look anything like anyone on the board. Which one do you think is going to get picked? These authors ignored all of that within the first 41 pages. Maybe they finally get around to it. I don't know. After having quoted Woodrow Wilson, they've shown me that I don't have a lot of faith in them. So, yeah, didn't go well for me. I apologize, John. I just couldn't do it. He had mentioned to me that there were things in it that I was probably not going to, be all that happy about, and he was correct in that regard. I am not all that happy about this book. So I don't know if anyone else has finished it. I don't know if you gleaned anything of use for your particular path in life. Maybe you did. Maybe this book was the most important thing you've ever read when it comes to negotiation, and if it is, congratulations. I'm happy for you. But these authors had an opportunity to present themselves to the world in a manner other than sounding like clueless, privileged white dudes. And they dropped that ball, and they stepped all over their own dicks.